Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So I've been a bit quiet for a few days, just posted a few kind of tactics videos. Because the session that we did a few days ago, last week, with the on ranking the different openings by character, personality, style, really threw a bit of a curveball because the both James and I were very much drawn to the Reti opening, and I've done a bit of poking around, and I'm gonna say I don't know where I'm standing right now on this, but I'm really intrigued. So what I've got here is I've got a bit of a study, but before we do that, let's just go through how this does at the different rating levels. Okay, so this is on Lichess 400, okay, which is obviously absolute beginner level on Lichess, and the move 1f3 is kind of equal, right? You've got 48% for white, 47% for black. Okay, fair enough. Let's go to 1000, 49-46. Okay, so you know, it's okay now. But the thing is, right? You also have to compare it to before move 1. Okay, so white starts with 50. So you're really looking at 51, 50. You want something better than 50. So it's not looking like that clever at 1200. What about 1400? 1400, 50, 46. And, but of course there's the draws. There's the, you know, as well to take into account. But here at 1600, we're now looking at 51. Okay, 51%. And at 1800, 51%, right? That's around my level. 2000, 51%. Now, you know, there's, and that is the top opening move out of the top 8. Okay, it's the strongest out of the top 8, which I think is fascinating. 2200, knight of 3, 50%. And now here, of course, the win rate is going down because you're getting more draws as well. Okay, so it's now 42 for black though. So it's looking good. What about at 2500? Does it work there? Well, of course, you know, 48 against 41 with more draws, again, because people are playing more solidly. Now, what is it about this opening? What is it about this one knight f3? Well, you're really... It's almost like you're not going in as white with the first strike. You know, it's almost like you're going into a particular guard formation or a particular, you know, like that. What is your style? I am White Eagle Claw. Do you know what I mean? I am Random Tiger, whatever it is, you know? And then you're waiting for black to say, okay, black, what are you going to do? Now, one thing is that black would love to play 1e5. You can't do that. I actually had somebody play that in a blitz game earlier on today. It's very rare, but they just literally blunder the pawn. So there you go. They probably shouldn't really do that. But after this move, there are a lot of directions in which black can go. So how do we even start to say, do I want to play this opening? Because as you're about to see, it can go into myriad different directions, which is both at once frustrating because it's a heap of stuff to study, but at the same time, really fresh. Because I have to say, I'm getting a bit bored of seeing the same positions over and over and over. Now, Craig has rocketed through using the Roy Lopez exchange variation as white, right, from starting around 800 to 2200 rapid, right? And he knows it like the back of his hand. He knows how to win the endgame. He knows what he's going to... He knows if they take that bishop, blah, 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 whatever. He knows he's onto a winner, okay? So black's got to play really well. And that's one way you can do it, right? However, oh man, well, anyway, look, shall we just have a look, right? I'll show you. So, I'm going to set this back now to 1800 and 2000, okay, on Lichess, okay. And we're playing this move. So what we're not doing, we haven't played e4. We haven't played 1d4. So and by the way, this is the third most common first move from white after 1e4 and 1d4, right? One knight f3 is, so this is the Zukertort variation, by the way. This is what it's known as, the Zukertort opening. On chess.com and Chess call it the same. It's not the Reti. I think if we remember in the Queen's Gambit when Beth plays Mr. Scheibel and Mr. Gantz from the high school, then she opens with one knight f3 and he says, the Reti opening, right? It's not the Reti opening, right? The Reti opening is a specific move order, which we were about to see in a second. So, how many things have been played by black? We'll have a look. Well, 1d5 obviously is the most common. Black wants to put one of their pawns in the center because that's what you do. That's opening principles, and it can't be that one, right? So at this level, 1d5 will be played 1/3 of the time. Okay, then you get knight f6 mirroring, then you get c5. Okay, and we're going to look at all of these, and e6. Kind of thinking, well, French style, maybe they're a French player, they play e6 against 1e4. Maybe they think, I'll play e6 and then maybe white will play e4. Okay, but they could play knight c6 6% of the time. They could play d6 5% of the time. They could play g6, right, going for a King's Indian kind of setup, or c6. I thought we just had c6. No, you know, if they're a Caro-Kann player, thinking, well, maybe we'll find ourselves in a familiar territory, right, or b6 and fianchetto the Queen's bishop, or f5, which is actually very interesting, but still 2% of the time, or e5, or f6. It's like a black player. I've played 5,000 games or whatever with the black pieces, or more, right? I still don't know what to do against one knight f3. I haven't got a clue. I'm already winging it from move one. And by the way, if we look on the chess.com Explorer, this is my games as black, yeah? And I do well against 1e4. I've got a 51% win rate. This is my entire career on chess.com, okay? 8,000 1e4s I've faced. I've won 51% against 46. d4, I've won 49% against 48, right? 1c4, I've not done so well, the English, right? But, so isn't this interesting? For me, working my way up to like 1,600 on chess.com, I've faced more Englishes than I have done. Okay, it says Reti here, but it should be the Zukertort, right? Then I have Zukertorts. Interesting. By a small margin. And then E3, the Van Croys, and blah, blah, blah. Then we really get into the weeds, okay? But I only have a 47% win rate against the Zukertort with one knight f3, the same as against the English. Because I just don't have anything in my repertoire, because they are more rare. Okay, back to this. So what we're going to do now, I've got like 10 examples of how this is likely to go at the intermediate level. Okay, as we've said, d5 is the most common response because black wants to grab the center. And what we're going to do here is we are going to go into the Reti. Now, already here it's now 52%. Remember, at the start of the game, it's 49-46 with 5% draw rate, okay? After these two moves, it's already 52-42 in white's favor, okay? Because then what we're going to do is we're going to play c4, 2c4. What's the idea of this? Well, the idea is that you want to tempt the pawn away from the center, right? And what do you do when they accept? This is the Reti accepted, and it is the most common move. It's going to be played 24% of the time, but they might also push on. They might also play c6, and they might also play e6, and maybe knight f6, right? So there's a bunch of things they can do. They might play c5, okay? And this is kind of what's so sexy and exciting about this opening. It's because it can go anywhere. So in terms of studying this and trying to get good at it, you've got a job on your hands, right? But you've got a job on your hands if you want to play the Roy Lopez at a reasonable level, or play the Open Sicilian at a reasonable level, where the theory goes 10, 15, 20 moves deep, right? You're neck deep in theory. You're kind of neck deep in theory here, but I think you've still got an edge as the stats show. So what happens here? Okay, so we're going to go Reti accepted first. Okay, when they do that, you push pawn to e6, and here's the point: you're trying to recapture your pawn with your bishop with development and be ready to castle. Boom, right? That's the point. 60% win rate for white at this point against 36, right? You are already on top. They develop the knight. Well, basically, if they fail to develop the fail to defend the pawn, you grab the pawn, and we're just doing great here, right? It's like 55%, blah blah blah. And you castle, and they're going to bring out their bishop, and you occupy the center. So you'll quite often get this pawn structure, but this isn't the only pattern. So I'm not. This is not a theory thing. This is a let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of Zukertort, which isn't even a place, okay? One knight f3, black's already going, you know, D, A, F, U, Q, isn't he? Right? And here we go, accepted. They might do this. And this is, again, weakening. After pawn a4, we're winning 67%, right? Now, so they try and defend the pawn. Okay, so what do? You trade off. Then you play knight c3 to attack this, okay? I like this. And in fact, I had this exact sequence in a blitz game the other day. They bring out the bishop to defend the other pawn. You throw your knight in to attack the bishop. Note, by the way, a sexy diagonal shape, right? They defend the bishop now with a knight, and out comes the queen to f3, right? Most common move, okay? Is it? Let me just check here. 1 second. Oh, I've lost control of my mouse. Yeah, b4 is the most commonly played move, right? And you grab the rook, and it's going to be curtains, okay? And that's just a bit of fun that you can have with the Reti, okay? So the abominable Reti, yeah, they play e5. Again, you attack the center, you recapture. Get your queen out. You're threatening checkmate at this point in time, right? I like this position. This is the thing. You have to say to yourself, look at white, right? We are not down material. We've castled. We've got two pieces developed. We're threatening checkmate on the next move. We've got the bishop pair. Yes, we've got an isolated queen's pawn. But what's black got? Black ain't got nothing. How cool is that? Let's look at another one. Let's look at the Reti declined. We've got like 4 of these, right? They play c6, like Caracan style. You strike out in the center. Queen c2 is a kind of a tricky move, but we're winning 58% from this point in time, you know? And now we're kind of getting a bit reminiscent of some kind of Englishes and stuff like that, yeah? And we might still fianchetto this bishop, you know? Or maybe not, but castle, and so on and so forth, right? So that's probably rook e8, 61%, and then it says it's not. Okay? But again, a very different kind of setup. So, you know, it's quite a kind of schizophrenic opening, really. If they decline and push, you contest the pawn, right? They try and defend. Again, we're pushing b4. I'm liking this kind of aggressive pawn trick. Definitely take the f pawn. Yeah, push in the center. Look at this, push in the center. So we've given up a pawn here, but what have we got in compensation? All your center are belong to us, isn't it? You know, great control. And you know, white's winning 54% from this point. The queenside fianchetto is a common theme, it appears, right? Bishops of Doom, common theme. Castles, semi-open f-file, what's not to like? You know? But again, it's a completely different personality. You just never know what you're going to get. Right, let's get Reti declined with e6. Okay? Now you go into like King's Indian style. You fianchetto your bishop. So there's bits of English in this. There's bits of all sorts in this. Right? And we're winning 50% against 43 from here. What about bishop f5? Bishop f5, please. Right? Queen b3 is the best move at this level, right? And we're winning 67%. They take, boom, right? And that's just like 64% win rate. So it's like, it's like the Swiss Army knife of openings, really. It's like, but, you know, do you want to get the same positions over and over again? Or do you want to be as surprised as, do you want to be like, oh, like the Surprise Brothers, yeah? Let me show you more if you're not already interested, okay? Now, what if they don't play 1d5? What if they play this? Well, you go into a King's Indian attack setup, okay? You can fianchetto both bishops. Strike for the center, get castled, okay? 54% against 40% at the strong intermediate level. That's 1800 and 2000 on Lichess. White does very well. Yeah, again, we're going for this big queenside expansion. Liking this very much. You know, we might have h4, h5 ideas. All good. Okay, let's look at another way that they can break out c5. Now, this is the Sicilian invitation. Because if we were to play e4 at this point, what have we got? We've got an open Sicilian. So you could do that. You could do that, and then if you're a Mora player or whatever, you could go into a Smith-Mora deferred, right? Takes this, okay, and look, this is a Smith-Mora, so you know you can take it that route. There's so many different options that you can do. However, G3 here, knight out, fianchetto on the queen side, off for black the center. They take the center. E6, opening up the bishop, pin the knight, castles. Right, 52% against 42%. So I know, but this is chapter 9 already in the thing. It's like we've seen almost 9 completely different games here. Okay, what if they ignore it and go e6 here? Right, again, King's Indian attack style. You give them the center, right? Just like you do with the King's Indian defense. You give up the center, and then you're going to attack it later on. You're going to say, I'm going to make up my mind later on what I'm going to do with my pawns. Am I going to put them on dark squares? Am I going to put them on light squares? Am I going to play it like this? There's all kinds of setups you can do. Okay? 54% against 40 for white from this point. You know, how does that work? Right? Okay, we'll look at just a couple more. They mirror the knight move. You can play d4, and now we're in something completely different, the Black Mustang defense. Okay, and here you can go into Queen's Gambit, right? This is a Queen's Gambit declined Shigorin defense, right? Queen out. Some crazy stuff going on here. Look at this, right? I like the look of this. So it's almost like this is 20 openings in one, but I like the idea that you're putting the onus on black to say, okay, go on then. Where do you want to take it? Go and make the first move. I dare you. He says, I double dare you. Do you know what I mean? Right, let me show you one other thing. There's a gambit. The Lisitsyn gambit, right? Now this is the rare one, okay? Played 2% of the time, pawn f5. Right? You offer e4. Okay? They take. You go in with your knight. This is funny stuff, right? You offer another pawn. They take. Boom. What does this remind you of? Yeah? This is very, very similar, is it not, to the Charlotte gambit on the black side, right? We've got no central pawns, but we're going to try and put rooks on there later on. Okay? And guess what? The win rate, 68% for white from this point. Okay, so, go on, dare me. Dare me to become a Zukertort player. I want you to. Because this, compared to, you know, the G3 Vienna, okay, I could become a G3 Vienna expert in a couple of years, right? I could know exactly what to do in those positions. And if to get to 2000, doing something like that, like Craig has done, which is a perfectly valid strategy for planning out your chess career. Pick one opening that you're going to see a lot, that you're likely to get a lot, and do it. Or, you know, this is the one-man band of openings, and it gives you... So, but here's the thing, right? So we've seen King's Indian attack setups. We've seen the Reti setup, which is very unique and very interesting. And there's a lot of tactical and positional stuff. We've seen English-style setups coming out here. We've seen Sicilian setups. We've seen the Queen's Gambit. So it can transpose. It's like, what's your name, honey? Well, what do you want it to be, kind of thing, And on one hand, it may seem that that is a risk for white and detrimental for white. On the other hand, the same goes for black. Because black doesn't know what to do. Black, I promise you, black is going to be on his own playing chess, on instinct and principles from move one. No one's got anything lined up. Well, I know that I don't. Right? I know what I'm doing against the first 4 or 5 moves in most d4 and e4 openings, but I don't against the Zukertort. So, yeah, you're making life hard for you, but you're making life hard for them as well. And that, I think, is the crux. Do you want to play hard chess, or do you want to play more safe, more easy? And also, here's the other thing: if you run got your own chess channel on YouTube, why not go for a dozen different openings in one? Yeah, the opening of many faces. So, answers on a postcard, please. Put in the comments. Hunty, yes. Go on, take up the Zukertort. And if enough of you dare me, then I will do it. I'll throw out the Vienna, I'll throw out the Danish, and we're going to set off on a new journey. And I forget about this English stuff like that. The Zukertort, it's like no opening and every opening all at the same time. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. See you soon.